Been a great afternoon, covered a ton of territory. We're here to talk about the fast-changing marketplace for advanced TV. And I started off with Joanna talking about the research I'd done a couple of years ago to say that we're at the inflection point, which of course is that point at the bottom of the hockey stick when things are supposed to go like that. But Howard just noted that in the upfront last year, only about 10% of inventory was transacted on advanced audiences. So how fast is it really changing? Is it about to start changing faster? Where is changing fast? Where is maybe not changing quite so fast? Christine, what about you?
Do I get to go first? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think it's funny. I got my energy for analytics in TV from a conversation where Dave Poltrack and Howard Schimmel were actually debating how fast this would happen 10 years ago. So it's been slower, I think, than everybody expected. But honestly, we work in the digital space at LiveRamp a lot. And there's a lot of brands who are still getting their feet under them in terms of audiences in digital. So I think we are at the point now where you can take a brand, you can take an analog of what they just went through in digital over the last 5 to 7 years, and you can point them at TV and really see the ramp happen. So I think we're really in the acceleration point now.
So I think there's a difference, obviously, between transacting on advanced audiences and at least someone in my position or in my team's position using insight against those more strategic audiences to better inform what we're doing. We're doing a lot more of that may be not as transparent to the other side of the marketplace. It doesn't mean it's not happening. I think the other side of it is I like to look at the value of TV. I mean, I think we talk a lot about television and video and its ability now to be more targeted and more personalized. But I think if you take a step back, the vast majority of our clients still buy TV for largely the same reason they always have, which is maximizing reach. It still is unparalleled in the marketplace in terms of its ability to do that. And most of our clients see value in that. Most of our clients, from a brand building standpoint, don't necessarily identify a ton of waste in TV if you're looking to build a brand and keep that top of mind for consumers. Obviously, as part of the overall purchase funnel, there is value there. So I'm not trying to say this is not something we should be trying to advance, because we absolutely should, but I think we need to look at it relative to what a client's trying to accomplish and better frame our ability to do it within television against our ability to do it across all other media types.
Ben?
Yeah, I think a lot of the work that's been done has been more check the box, right? We're doing it versus actually doing it for meaningful purpose, like Neil was saying, like trying to really accommodate a marketer's needs by leveraging all the tools that are out there. We talk about data, and there are so many different types of data sets. Trying to use both the same data on the pre-side, on the planning side, and then also on the measurement side is hard still. So even though we want to do this advanced targeting and we want to find the right people that are in market for products or services, it's still complicated, but we're definitely making progress.
So Neil, what I heard you say was it's going faster on the planning side than it actually is on the execution side. Is that a fair statement?
It depends on how you define planning. I would say our buyers are using better insight to make buying decisions and to be better connected in terms of, okay, we're planning against something more strategic, and then the buyers are taking that insight and being able to apply it more effectively to the inventory that they're purchasing. Are we connecting it on the back end as much as we should be? No, but to your point, it's very, very difficult to do that. From my standpoint, from an investment perspective, we are making progress. Whether or not we assign the transaction and the guarantee and with the vendor against something beyond age and gender might be immaterial if ultimately we're accomplishing the same thing.
How many brands do we have in the audience here? A few. Not too many, so let's really talk, okay?
One of them is my client, at least one of them.
Well, no doubt she's like really at the cutting edge. But for the clients not in the room, the other thing I hear a lot is, and it's come up a few times today, of the legacy of buying GRPs is you buy them cheap, you try to get them cheaper this year than last year, and that just completely does not fit with moving forward in an advanced TV space. So are the clients, are the brands moving slower than the agencies and the technology providers?
I am going to use Joanna's peaches and plums and nectarines. I actually think Nick used blender in there too. So all of these analogies, I think we're in a situation where you see leaders inside of brands, and I feel like I lived this in digital display, and then I lived it in mobile. You see leaders inside of brands who are really willing to stick their neck out and say, we're not just going to do, I love it, like the test and learn, that's like one campaign, that's $500 or maybe even $100,000 in one quarter. Like that's not really sticking your neck out. A commitment to a year of test and learn where you're taking 2 million or 5 million, and you're really committing yourself to experimenting, they're there. And we at LiveRamp, we've created a team. There are 6 of us who are out there every single day trying to find those people and just help them walk through those steps.
Brian, you're in kind of a neutral territory, so maybe this is a safer question for you, and then I'll come back to you, Neil.
I mean, we oftentimes hear the anecdotes that, GRPs and procurement people and like there's contracts and there's performance metrics, and yet you go talk to an actual marketer and they're like, no, I told my agency that, this is how I wanted to transact. And I'm like, well, maybe did you talk to your procurement people? Like there's a lot of noise in who's at fault and finger pointing. I think genuinely everyone wants to find the audiences that most align with their products and services. I kind of remember back, and a lot of people in the room were certainly in the business, but 2006, 2007, where we had that pretty pivotal broadcast cable upfront. We went from program ratings to commercial ratings, and live same day, all in this. It was like a brutal upfront. And by the way, TiVo was going to kill the entire industry, so it was all over, so it didn't really matter. And yet, here we are, and we made that pretty dramatic change from the economics of what we counted and didn't count. And I think we have to unlock that again, at that, and make sure, a lot of the work that OpenAP is doing, the definitions is key. And as long as no one's getting beat on that trade, I think we'll be able to advance really, really quickly.
I think, to get back to your original question, if anyone in my position is just expecting to enter the marketplace and transact the same way that we always have, and essentially get less and pay more, which is what our clients challenge us not to do, then they're doing it wrong. I think our job is, no matter how we're transacting, is to maximize the effectiveness of the media that we're placing and driving our clients' business. There are countless ways to be able to do that. I think a lot of the technologies that we've been talking about today will continue to help us be more effective there. I think it really boils down to scaling a consistent approach, and it's similar to what you said with C3. The industry landed on something that year. Some people didn't like it. It was pushed by some people more than others, but that's where we landed and we moved on. I think we're close to a point in time where, for the sake of our clients and the sake of us doing more effective business with each other, we have to try to get to a point where that's the case again.
One of the other things I heard in that discussion is, one of the things that I'm really obsessing about these days is kind of legacy mindset that is so deep that we're not even conscious of how controlling it is. So, for example, we were talking before about reach, and TV is for reach. But going back, but does the definition of reach change, and do people need to redefine or rethink about reach in a world where we have all these capabilities in order to really accelerate?
The way we define reach these days is obviously evolved. We need, and I think Ethan said it before, we need to be able to, if we're going to transact on reach, it needs to be across any number of video touch points that a consumer would reasonably consider as television-esque. It needs to be the same sort of experience from an advertising and content standpoint, so we can reasonably accept the same or expect the same level of effectiveness. That's what reach needs to be defined by. But we need to prove out to clients that in a landscape where every year it's harder and harder to aggregate the same level of audiences. We had a studio client years ago who said, no matter what I do, every year it's harder and harder to drive awareness. And it's because the vast majority of their spend was in television and people were moving away from television. We just need to counteract that. We need to be able to drive awareness and reach across as many touch points as possible within sort of the rules that I just sort of explained.
Yeah, and there's some good tools, right, to help do that, trying to understand consumption across the different screens, even if you're just looking at video as a media. Talk about incremental reach as the term. There's light viewers, heavy viewers. There's non-TV viewers. They all react differently to creative. You can't drive someone that doesn't watch TV to tune into a TV program. It's just not going to happen. Even if you reach them, in the right medium, and it's just not effective. So reach is important. It's a value, and having these tools to measure all this is really critical.
I think I maybe have a slightly different view, which is that really starting with audience is the place that, and I'm sure you guys implicitly do too, but you have a brand, premium auto manufacturer, you really sit down with them and you say, there's only about 20% of this country who can actually afford to buy your car. So when you start there, reach has a totally different framing than when you just start with a GRP. And so at LiveRamp, we really try to start the conversation with audience, and then your view on what does reaching them with a premium video impression really mean, it kind of pivots a little bit.
Thank you, Christine. That's exactly was my loaded question that I was trying to get at, because back in my Ogilvy early career days, reach meant your plan was trying to hit 70% of 25 to 54 or whatever it was. And I think we touched on the example earlier before, the diapering moms. I mean, if there's 3 million diapering moms, to me, these days, reach is, how do I get 100% of those? Yes, across a bunch of different channels, a bunch of different devices, all that stuff. But that's a very different definition of reach, closer to what you were talking about, Christine, than, again, sort of what I was classically kind of trained at. Do marketers even know that's possible? Do the brands even know that's something they could conceive of dreaming about maybe doing in the near future?
I would say yes. And the implication in my previous answer was that we are doing the appropriate work on an audience, from the audience front at the beginning. We're not, the point is to develop from a strategic standpoint who are the right people to reach, and then it's my job as an overseeing investment to be able to go find those people, no matter how we define it. I think clients do realize this is possible. Obviously, there are a number of opportunities in the video landscape that allow for that on some level. We're doing some work internally with some of our own tools to be able to push that forward as well. But that's really the future. In very few cases are we talking to clients about, I'm going to go make sure I'm maximizing your 18 to 49 reach. It's I'm maximizing the number of people within this segment that we've agreed is valuable to your business across any of the appropriate channels.
And I think the TV business has really always been there before digital even. Like MRI, Scarborough at their core were audience-based tools. Right. So I think the opportunity now is to help them really understand the scale of which the data is available potentially.
Right. But that does come back to one of the things on the prep call that we touched on, which is the measurement. Because if we're now going to start defining measurement against these other audiences and things, we need to be able to, and Brian, you were saying that too, we've got to have the metrics that go all the way through so that we can plan it, buy it, measure it, prove that we did what we needed to do. So what's coming up in that space that we can all look forward to in the next 12 to 18 months?
I mean, there's certainly good progress in there in sharing of information and partnering. We heard a lot about partnerships today and the ecosystem working together to create that scale. And then we also have a mindful eye on any privacy, things that are happening out there that may inhibit that, and trying to figure out different ways to identify consumers by reaching them without actually disclosing who they are, which is a big hot topic, and it's a challenge. Try to do so reliably. How about managing frequency when you're not allowed to know it's somebody, or a device even, and it's going to be really, really complex. And we may have to revert back to some modeling versus pure one-to-one.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's not for lack of wanting the progress. I think it's an incredibly complicated space that becomes more complicated every day with privacy concerns. Ideally, we would be able to connect a single exposure to a sale or whatever the ultimate end game is. And it's very difficult to do that consistently across all types of exposures and while maintaining all the protections that are in place for consumer privacy. I would agree. There is progress being made. I think it'll be interesting to watch and see what the role of the agencies becomes. Obviously, I'm part of a holding company that made a recent significant acquisition of a large data company to understand what the impact of that might be in our ability to stitch some of this stuff together ourselves. I think that it's a really exciting space that I think the industry is in alignment that it needs to evolve. It's just a matter of how we get there.
Well, we obviously made a move at LiveRamp to dig into this challenge, and all of the gaps and challenges that you guys have been talking about in the last couple hours are squarely within our roadmap. So this is a challenge we are chasing, and I hope to have good answers for all of you.
Oh, that's a perfect setup for my wrap-up question. So let me replay a couple of the words and concepts that we've heard all throughout the day. Automation, collaboration, new currency, programmatic, attribution. Which one of those, from what you've heard today, do you think is the one that if we could really make something happen there, would really even advance the advanced TV marketplace even faster? Lightning round. Brian.
Collaboration, for me, it's hard to get everything done by yourself, big, small, even being part of Comcast as FreeWheel. Collaboration across our teams is really strong, and that's helping us advance faster. So the more we can partner that way, I think the faster we get there.
I'm not going to say the same thing, although I probably agree. I will put a vote in for automation, just because I've been in this business for 20 years, and on the TV side, at least, we transact virtually the exact same way we did when I called Mark Kroc up, and he was a assistant at VH1 or whatever he was. If I needed to buy something from him today, I would still do it the same way as I did then. So I think we need to evolve our systems and how we interact with each other.
I'll layer measurement on just because I have to, but I was going to go with their two answers. So there you got rank order, collaboration, automation, and measurement.
Cool. So that's all we have to do for then. And we'll be all set. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.